You're at your old trusty boat. You call mighty sparrow. I'm in the city of Mardi Gras.
Welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast. I'm your host, Jerome Rand. Hey, everybody. Before we start the show, just a quick couple notes. This is just going to be a quick update that I'm back on land, followed by the first of the series of this 25-day adventure into the Atlantic. But before as I always say, if you want to support the show, you can follow the link to the Patreon account, and you can support through that. Or we also have shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and all that sort of stuff now, and you can support the ongoing adventures of the Mighty Sparrow and Sailing into Oblivion by picking some of that stuff up. So it all helps, especially now when half of the stuff I invested in is now sitting on the bottom of the Atlantic, because we are pretty busted up. But to my continued supporters, my Patreon family, thank you all very much. To everybody else who has donated via like Venmo or whatever, I cannot state how much that helps, especially in situations like this. So really appreciate it. You all know who you are, and I will be reaching out to you all personally as soon as my head stops rocking and rolling. So without further ado, we're going to get into the podcast. And if you do want to reach out, just head over to sailingintoOblivion.com, and you can contact the show right there through the podcast button. Email me, and I will read it and email you right back. So thanks for listening, and here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the land-based Mighty Sparrow, sitting on the dock down here in Beaufort, South Carolina, feeling very lucky to be off the ocean. That was pretty violent this time, and boy, I had some of the worst land sickness yesterday. I pulled in around 1 o'clock, and I've never felt so physically just drained from not only the exhaustion of not being able to sleep out there, but the motion over the past 25 days was pretty ridiculous. I'm not going to lie. It was some of the worst weather that I've dealt with in such a short period of time. And that I think is something to be said after going through the Southern Ocean. But yeah, so I just wanted to do a quick update. My brain is not working correctly quite yet, and it's probably going to take a few days to really settle down. I still haven't even showered because I'm afraid to get into the little box and fall over or something like that. So I'm gonna wait on that one for just a little bit, but it's gonna have to happen soon because I'm definitely starting to stink a little bit here. The last shower though was yesterday while I was motoring on the intercoastal to get up here, and just a little, half gallon or whatever, a gallon of water poured over me, but it felt really good. I will tell you that. So looking at my hands right now, and the calluses have already started to peel away a little bit. They were built up pretty good, pretty strong. But yeah, I mean, physically, mentally, I guess I'm doing all right. I'm definitely a little shaky still. I think mostly from the exhaustion, and I was looking at some of the footage last night from some of these weather systems, and for the first time ever, I actually had to turn it off. I think mostly because, I was just about to try and go to sleep, and I didn't want to dive back into sort of the nightmare of that night. But it was, I could see how hectic it actually was, what I was trying to get through. And yeah, pretty scary stuff. I'm not going to lie. So update, I guess. We're here, we're on the dock, and oh, there is a lot of work to do. I got to compile a whole list because, like I always say, the best way to tackle a huge amount of work is to write down all the tasks and just start chipping away at them so you don't get too overwhelmed. And that's going to be my game plan here. And, yeah, I think I'm good to be in the marina for a month, and that'll allow me to a chance to get down and see my parents, put my mom's mind at ease for a little bit, although she already is pretty happy that I'm no longer out there, and so that's good. And yeah, mostly trying to communicate with everybody and reach out to as many people as I can. You know, it's difficult because there's a lot of people. I'm very lucky. That's a great problem to have, that there are so many people that support and really enjoy sort of following some of these adventures, and you know, like the podcast and the videos and all that. And so I want to do my best to get a lot of that stuff out there in a timely fashion. I am gonna have to put some time and thought into exactly how I want to do that, because this story of this voyage, these 25 days at sea, is it's different than the trip around the world and stuff. It's I don't know. It's crazy. But I, silver lining, sort of think that this is something that I think lends itself really well to doing presentations about, you know, going through all these conditions and things like that at sea. And so I've got to figure out, you know, what I want to throw out there just into the world for everybody to see, and then what I sort of want to hold on to, so that, you know, essentially people will pay me to come out and present this story about sort of surviving through these ugly conditions and doing it on your own and all that stuff. But the point of this is not to ramble. It's to say that there will be stuff coming out, and I will get it out there soon. I am going to put a couple clips straight away onto the Patreon page for my lovely Patreon supporters, because that, I think, is definitely worth it for anybody that supports the podcast. You guys are going to get a little sneak peek into some ugly weather out at sea, and some footage that you know, you won't be able to see anywhere else, which I think is kind of cool. But and that's just a way for me to say thank you for all the support, that the continued support that everybody's given me and everything. So but yeah, so I'll be sort of working on that. I gotta clean this boat. Oh man, it's, you know, I had a lot of stuff I cleaned up, but I'm still now, as I kind of unpack things, I'm finding eggshells and random food bits and things like that all over. So it's going to need like a full-on deep clean, and obviously I got to do laundry and all that sort of stuff. But you know, and then it's going to get down into inspection time, and seeing what cracked and what broke, and finding all the little issues that are going to have to be dealt with, either while it's in the marina, or if it looks substantial enough to haul the boat out, which I think is pretty inevitable after a hit like that, and then the punishment of multiple more days of very heavy weather. It's probably a smart move to pull the boat out of the water and do all the fiberglass work and all that sort of stuff, and probably pull the mast out again, and inspect all the chain plates and everything like that, because yeah, we took some serious hits out there. But yeah, you know, I'm so I'll be working on all that sort of stuff, trying to dull that out, and also at the same time just be around other humans, which has been so nice. You know, I definitely could have pulled in to you know, Florida or something like that very easily a few days earlier than getting out here, but I knew that if I took the time and I worked at it and I got here, I would see familiar faces, friends, and it just, that cannot be understated or overstated enough. I don't know just how important that is. And when you do go through kind of a traumatic sort of experience like I've been through, it it's like an eye opener, a reminder to me just how important relationships and friendships and family and all that really is. So, I say it all the time, but if there's people you haven't talked to in a while, call them up because, yeah, those connections, they're what make life worth living, I think. So that's a little deep for post post sailing. Sleep. I tried to go to sleep yesterday, took a nap, and woke up completely panicked, not knowing where I was. The boat's listing over a little bit right now, and so it sort of feels like we're healing, and I think that didn't help. But then I was up for a little while, got a few things done, and some friends brought over some beer and pizza, and uh, was up not too late, but then finally was able to fall asleep on the boat. And I'd considered going and getting a hotel room, but I sort of figured, you know what, I want to just stay. I want to keep my mental faculties about me, and I want to make sure I can still sleep on this boat and actually get some rest. And as long as I left all the lights on and down below, I was okay. So it worked out all right because I just didn't want to wake up in a panic shock in like this dark boat and not know what was going on. And like I said, a little bit of post traumatic stress, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. And yeah, like I said, it does seem like a mountain of work needs to be done, but I'm gonna just take it one piece at a time and start chipping away. And yeah, we'll go from there. Now with the podcast, I recorded a lot while I was out there. So I think what the game plan is or will be is to start putting those out and in between sitting down with other people around the marina, and because I'm not the only one that has some stories to tell. Pax and Amy had some pretty crazy stuff happen. Another friend of mine, Brian, he got hit by lightning. The boat did, not him, thank goodness. And I don't know. There's just a good collection of great people to sit down and talk sailing and talk life and talk everything. And I'm really looking forward to it. So the podcast is going to be back in full effect, hopefully with I'd like to do 2 shows a week, and I think that's pretty possible. I think that's a good number to aim for, and I'll try my best. And I'll just interweave those with some of these. Most of the shows that I did out on the water were 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that, and so I'll try and keep them at an hour. So I'll glue 2 of them together, so to speak, and yeah, just sort of keep plunking those away. But I'll do like a mini series, I suppose, of the offshore adventure. I don't know what I'm going to call this one. I might just call it Sailing into the Wave, or The Wave That Found Me, or 25 days, or who knows. I'll come up with all that. But yeah, it is fantastic. Now, unfortunately, I'm using one of the old microphones, and because the others got destroyed, covered in salt water. Microphones in salt water, they don't really like it. Yeah, one of the things that when you get your boat tipped all the way over, salt water comes in through all sorts of little places, but it comes out of the toilet, it comes out of the sinks, and it sort of sprays everywhere. As pretty of a picture as I've just painted, I am going to hopefully be able to purchase another microphone, and so I'll be able to sit down with people, but also try and up the ante on the actual quality of it. And one of these days I'm just gonna bite the bullet and get some super high quality mics that so it sounds really, really good quality, because I think the podcast at this point, it's going to be sticking around for a while, and I want to make it as good as possible. So yeah, I don't know. In other news, I haven't had a chance to check out the Golden Globe race. We'll get to that coming up in the coming days and stuff, but this one, I figured just a shorty. I'll probably throw on like the first of the series of Being Out at Sea podcasts, and so this will be part one of that series, but I really just wanted to do a quick update, let everybody know I'm okay. My brain's a little busted, but I'm okay, and the boat's a little busted, but she's okay. And yeah, it's good. It's good to be alive, and I'm glad that I'm glad I had the experience. I'm not gonna lie, I really am. I think in some ways, I was searching throughout all these years and all this sailing for a not necessarily like searching for a storm, but searching for a system. I don't know. I guess there's part of me that was very curious about being in a situation that gets kind of out of control, and I found it, and I found it in spades. And yeah, I'm glad I went through it, but if you asked me if I want to do it again, I'd tell you absolutely not. Give me some fine weather, please. I enjoy that so much more than heavy weather sailing. So yeah, other than that, I think that's going to be it from me for today. But like I said, yeah, more stuff is going to be coming out, and yeah, I will. I'll get to work throwing some stuff out into the old interweb, and get a couple of little clips of some of the raw footage on the Patreon page for everybody that supports. So really appreciate it, and yeah, we'll check back in soon. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome aboard. Oh my goodness, first pod of the trip. Can't believe it. You get a few things situated here. Oh, holy smoke. So much is happening. I'm only on day 4. So there might be some background noise going on. I'm pretty used to doing this in a quiet space, and obviously we are out sailing, so that ain't gonna happen. And it's, we had a near gale, official, I guess, as I am told, in the Gulf of Maine yesterday. So I weathered that, which was 12 hours of fun and worry and questioning my life choices, which then proceeded to have a wind shift. But we'll get into all that. Yeah, it's been interesting. We set off on Monday the 15th. No, Monday the 14th, and here's now 17th. So it's the third day? Yeah, 15th. No, 15th, 16th, 17th. Yeah, today's the third day. You'd think I'd have that all on lockdown. It's just been very discombobulating going through the sort of November weather in the Gulf of Maine. In any event, yeah, we set off, and it was blowing really good, blowing out of the northwest. Really exceptional sailing out to Matinicus. Lots of lobster pots still, even though it's sort of the tail end of the season. But in any event, made it through unscathed. Got past Matinicus, the sunset. Pretty much just straight downwind sailing. And we had wind pretty much through the night. And then pretty much were becalmed the very next day. And just floating. I had no want of just eating up fuel on the first or second day of the trip. So I just floated there for a while, most of the day. And then the winds did finally fill in later that night a little bit. And unbeknownst to me, the forecast that I had, I guess when I look back on it, I guess it shows pretty well. But I don't know. For some reason, I sort of thought, yeah, it'd be like 20 to 25 knots into, from the southeast. So I'm dealing with it. And it was a lot stronger than that. By 4 or 5 in the morning, the pressure, and I was just looking at this, the barometric pressure was at 1030 at 2 in the morning, and by 6 p.m. it was down to 10:05, which is a drop of 25 bars in like 16 hours, which is crazy. That's a quick drop. That the center of that low must have been, reasonably very close to me or whatever. But so the winds just built and built and built, and as they were building, I just was like, well, you know what? I'll go hove to. It's blowing like 15, 20, right out of the direction I want to go. Let's just get prepared. So I took my time and, made sure I did it right and everything. I knew I wasn't going to get any headway, so I'm not bashing into it to grab a couple extra miles. And I'd say by about 7 in the morning, it was pretty much a steady 30, gusting up into the high 30s. So intense, a lot of noise. When I hove to, it's typically triple reefed main, which is very, very small on this boat, and small storm jib, backwinded up there. And so that's what we sort of wrote it out with. There was one point where I sort of got it in my head. I was like, just want to see, just want to go for a little rip. And so we peeled off. I doused the headsail, and we went dead downwind for an hour. And, I lost like maybe 10 miles, but it was fabulous. We were surfing. Oh my gosh. The waves hadn't really built up, but they were still already kind of choppy. Oh, it felt so good. All I was thinking to myself is, if I keep going, I'll just end up right back in Rockland and I can restart when this weather changes. But saner heads prevailed. And we decided to go hove to again, this time sort of pointing in the direction of the east. Did that for quite some time, and it was a little nerve-wracking, I'm not going to lie. I really don't like to get, near gale or gale force conditions really early on in a trip because it's scary, and I'm not used to the ocean, and no matter how much experience you have, when you're looking at your little boat and it's all just you and you're all alone, it can be a little frightening to see how fast and violent the world, basically a lot of times just sitting there going, like, kind of grinding my teeth, like, all right, that's enough. And it wasn't, by any means like storm force or anything like that. It's just, it was new. It was a little more intense than I really wanted to deal with, I guess. Boy, and I'll tell you, we might get interrupted here. I might have to do a little sail change action. I doubt this mic is picking up the sounds of the wind, but seems to be picking up. It's forecasted to pick up a little bit, but in any event, we wrote it out. We wrote it out in fine style. Sparrow did a great job, as per usual. The sails that my brother Sven made, still 60,000 miles in, bulletproof. They're absolutely phenomenal. Couldn't even ever ask for except maybe a new pair. A new pair would be pretty sweet. And I literally wouldn't change a thing. They're great. So yeah, we just waited it out. It was about, I want to say 12 or 15 hours because the wind shift was coming. Pressure just kept dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And then finally the wind starts its little shift. And all I'm thinking to myself is, oh, geez, these waves have built up because the tide flows in and out. And they weren't huge by any means. Probably up to about 15 feet, which is pretty big when you're just standing on the deck of the boat and you're going into it, or taking the brunt of it, I should say. But there were some breakers. We got a couple of hits, not much. Somehow lucked out because I watched very large pieces of water breaking just aft or just forward of Sparrow. That would have they would have hurt. Let's just say that. It would have been pretty intense. So I don't know. Luck of the draw. I got real, we were in the right position at the right time, I suppose. But in any event, just after the sun went down, we ended up with the wind shift. It started coming more out of the south. Then it went to the east. And even though we sort of had to drive into the waves from the southeast, the south and then the west, I ended up just putting a little bit of sail up, getting out of the hove to mode, and we just sort of plugged into it. I think I just did mainsail at first just because I wanted to go slow because I don't want to drop right off of the back edge of these waves. Because up in the Gulf of Maine, once you're headed out, it's kind of a narrow little gap that you're running. You either going down the South Channel in between Cape Cod and Georges Bank, or you're going the North Channel or the Northeast Channel, and that's the one that I wanted to go through. It's just less traffic and all that sort of stuff, and so you're sort of aiming for a specific spot, and you have to nail it. And so that meant essentially just leaping over these waves that had been built up from the previous 2 hours. So it all went well, though. I was able to get some sleep, and that was really helpful. It was a little nerve-wracking, just because I'm not used to being sailing on the boat. It's been so long, and oh man, I gotta go check this out, see what the situation is handing me. Let me pause for just one hot second. All good. Just a little touch of a bit of rain, which added to the prevailing easterly winds. The only reason I'm sort of keeping tabs on it right now is because I'm sailing the boat, but I'm down below, and still, it's only day 3. Get a little cautious, let's say. I get this sort of need, and I know it will go away rather quickly, but when the weather's not great and it's sort of changeable and exciting and stuff like that, I tend to really want to be up either in the companionway or in the cockpit, ready to go in case something happens. I think a lot of that is just, you take a mast down on a boat, you change some stuff, you put the mast back up, you make alterations, and I think deep down inside in my head, I'm sort of like, boy, I hope I did that right. I hope I didn't forget a pin. Hopefully I didn't do that when Murphy and I were hanging out. Love you, bud. But no, there's always, I think it takes a little while to get back the full confidence. I kept sort of reminding myself this is a West Sail 32. This is a boat that can handle a serious beating, and it's really not that bad out. It just sort of, it's intense. But it was one of those things where at the same time, after about 7 or 8 hours, 10 hours of being hove to and just heeled way over, and not way over, but heeled over, and listening to the sound of the wind and feeling the impact of the waves and stuff, you do get used to it. After a while, it's sort of like, is it still as windy as it was before? And yes, it absolutely was. But yeah, so I don't know. Everything held up well. It gave me a little extra confidence, and now as I'm doing this podcast, we are pretty much a beam of Georges Bank. It's a good 40 miles or so to our west, which I wanted to give it a nice wide berth because Georges Bank in any sort of weather above, say, 25 knots can become horrendous as far as the very strong currents, the tidal currents that are squirrely at best. So ye be warned, Georges Bank is no joke, especially in November. So we're cruising. The forecast looks pretty good. It's going to be blowing in the 20s for the next 2-3 days. And then they've got a little bit of a system, nothing crazy, but again, up into the 30 knot range, coming off. And my goal at this point is to try and get to the southern edge of said system. And just in case it decides to get a little bigger, and also more than anything, I just want to get to sort of warmer weather because it's freezing. Well, I shouldn't say it's freezing, but it's like 50 degrees. I'm wearing boots and socks and like thermals and all sort of stuff, and all I'm thinking about is 78-degree weather, wearing a pair of boxer shorts and seeing the stars and all that. And so that's where I'm headed. I'm going to go south and then hopefully east. And like I said, I'm going where the wind is going to take me. I mean, I know I've thrown out like the Atlantic 8 and I've thrown out just going to the Caribbean. But I'm pretty sure I put the caveat of I don't know where I'm going to go. And if I decide to just pull back in, then that's what I'm going to do because there's no rules on this trip. So there's a little bit of a sense of freedom, extra freedom. I mean, sailing in itself is this big freedom. Well, now sail without a destination in mind, and you've got the ultimate. So I'm thoroughly enjoying that. Already diving into some of my books, though I haven't had a huge amount of time for that. I Oh man, I can hear the dolphins. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. Just get a little excited. I could hear them through the hall. Definitely super loud. But in any event, couple mishaps. We ended up losing a bottle of Jack Daniels. Flew out of one of the compartments and the plastic cap smashed on the floor. And I was up on deck and I came down below. And before I even got down here, I was like, uh-oh, I can smell that. And I was expecting broken glass and all that sort of stuff. Luckily, there was none. So that's pretty cool. Saw a crazy, crazy unexplained sighting the other night, the second night out. And essentially, I'm seeing shooting stars. And I'm not going to go like full on UFO into this one, but this is what happened. I'll keep it quick. I'm sitting up in the cockpit. I'm seeing some shooting stars. It's a relatively clear night. I can see other stars, but it's also kind of muggy, foggy, I guess. Not really. You can see, but you can't see, if that makes any sense. And out of the corner of my eye, I see two bright blue shooting stars, and they're coming down from sort of center sky and right down towards the water. I'm like, whoa, look at those. And then just before, and it's hard to tell depth or how far away these things were, they then proceeded to turn away from the water, go up above the horizon just a bit, and then within about a 2 or 3 second interval, did a complete circle around the boat and then zipped off and disappeared. And I've never seen anything like that. That is for sure. I've seen some oddball stuff. I've seen Starlink. I've seen even rockets take off from a very far distance and try and figure out what the heck that is. That was pretty unbelievable. I was pretty shaken. I ended up throwing that out on Twitter because I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was very reminiscent of the orbs they talk about seeing, the Navy pilots and stuff like that. The speed at which these things were moving was insane. I have no idea how close they were, but it seemed like they were zeroed in on this little boat. I didn't have any lights on at that point, and then I turned them on after that. I don't know. It was interesting to say the least, but who knows what it was. But it was very, very unusual. So that is it for this podcast because I've got to go up and just make sure we're all doing okay. And then also I want to put this computer away because we're still dealing with, 8 to 10 foot waves out there. And I got a long way to go and this computer has to survive. And I do not wanted to get thrown off of this nav station and end up on the floor broken in pieces. So thanks for listening. This will be the first update pod on the trip. So that is it. Woo!